Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. If you enjoy this video, please remember to like and subscribe. There's also a members section if you care to join. There's also members only videos if you decide to join. Now, onto the program. Next month, April. It's gonna be the 30th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. There is too much to put into one video as to my thoughts on the Oklahoma City bombing. I remember when it happened. I don't remember where I was necessarily when it happened, right? Oklahoma is what, probably one time zone behind us, so 10 o'clock in the morning. I was probably at school and didn't learn anything about it until watching the news that night. And I remember following this story for a while because there was the whole thing about McVeigh, which bugged me. This guy, his unit was assigned to be the personal bodyguards of Norman Schwarzkopf. He saw actual combat in a war that only lasted 100 hours, and any big event that happened during that war, his unit was there. And then he gets assigned to storming Norman. And then he gets sent home, right? He gets sent home, and like right after being at war. Keep in mind, this is like the first time we had been in war since what, Panama? Panama wasn't even a war. That was a policing action. And this was before Black Hawk Down. But they approve him for going into special forces. Like, you're going to try out for special forces. The dude just got back from combat. He's like 20 pounds less than he normally would be. He's not fit enough to do it. And then they come up with a bullshit reason for him to drop out, which was bad feet. Like, he didn't know to have his boots broken in before he started doing ruck marches. The guy was a professional soldier. All he ever cared about was being a good soldier. He made sergeant before anybody else in his unit. So it never was right with me that, like, this is the guy. Like, there's something more to this. And this was when I was in high school. It just did not make any sense to me. Even the story of, like, the white supremacists. He's from upper state New York. Like, how many black people did he know to the point where he was just like, I don't like them. Then there was Terry Nichols. He pops in and they're like, hey, this guy's from Michigan. And I'm like, what? And then there's his brother, who he died years ago. But he never left Michigan. He was over by, what do they call that? There's that bay over by the Thumb. He was in that area. Apparently they're testing out homemade boom booms over there. But no, the one story that, God, it was not even a year after this event happened, right? They do this story on TV about this cop that self-deleted. I'm going to tell it how I remember it from high school. They go on about how after the event, he rushed in, he saved like 5 to 8 people. They don't even know how many people he saved because everything was chaos. He was one of the first people there. He's pulling people out. He got injured inside the building. He ended up falling like a story down into what would have been the parking garage, but it was called the pit. All the pipes burst and everything. It was filling with water. He's down there with a back injury. So Terrence Yeekey, he gets pulled out, sent to the hospital. And then some people at the hospital tell him, "You were never there." What? Fills out a report. That report is rejected by his superiors. We want this to be 1 page. How the hell do you make the events of April 19th, 1995 to a 1-page report when you're the first one on the scene and you're pulling people out? So then they go into detail about how his car was parked in this one spot. And 1.5 miles away, going over a creek, climbing over a barbed wire fence, and then for 1.5 miles, he's moving with cuts to his wrist, cuts to his neck. He has cuff and rope marks on his wrists. Like, I don't know. It's almost like he was kidnapped or something. Maybe tortured. His face was all bruised and beaten. And then they say, like, oh, when he got to this field, he just decided to use his own service weapon on himself, which he had told somebody earlier that day before. Whether this happened the day of or the day after, don't know. But before he left town, he met with someone who he said, "I'm not taking my service piece because I don't want it used on me." The initial reports said that there was no weapon found on the scene. And then hours later, when the FBI and Oklahoma City PD show up. That's a weird noise. All of a sudden, there's one found. But that weapon was never cataloged. It was never turned over to the family if it was a personal weapon of Yeekey's. And the whole thing was ruled a self-deletion, which meant no further investigation. So why the fuck is everything still sealed? That was the one that bugged me. That was the one where I remember hearing it on the news and I was like, what the hell? And even in high school, I was like, dude, they killed that guy. Like, what the hell did he know? What did he see? I don't think McVeigh even did it. At that point, all the weird stuff that was happening. There's the Carol Howell on TV talking about how she had told the ATF and the FBI, and she kept telling them, like, they're going to boom this building. They did absolutely nothing as far as she could tell. She wasn't an informant of ours. You think I slept with those Nazis for nothing? But no. I remember going to school like a week later, sitting in class, and I was like, hey, did you ever hear anything more about that cop that was killed? And they're like, what are you talking about? Of course, I was the weirdo. I was the one that was like glued to the news, wondering like, what more are they gonna have come out about this weird stuff? What really happened over there? I don't think these two guys did it. No, I just finished reading The Medusa Files 2 by Craig Roberts. Fascinating book. A lot of it, the only part I had an issue with was the supposed Middle Eastern connection. And that's pretty much been debunked by everybody. There's a lot of people back then that I think initially they were going to try to use this as a reason to go to war with Saddam. There's a lot of people that wanted to go back in there. Not happy that Bush it's not the goal. We needed him out. We needed to protect the American public's interest. But no. I was reading that, and he had a couple chapters on that whole thing, which kind of threw me off, and I was like, why is he going with this? And then there's the other one about like Mexican drug cartels and how they might have been involved, and I was like, still not feeling it. But then there's some chapters towards the end where a lot of his stuff coincided with Wendy Painting's book, Aberration in the Heartland of the Real, The Many Lives of Timothy McVeigh. And this was 2017 this book was published, Medusa Files 2. And towards the end, he was talking about how Jolly West, the MK Ultra dude, had visited Timothy McVeigh while he was in prison, or jail for that matter. I think this was before trial, 17 times. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure Wendy Painting just confirmed like 3 years ago, after 2020, keep in mind, that she got confirmation that Jolly West had met with McVeigh. She was looking for more evidence. Somehow Craig Roberts is just like, yeah, he met with him, and he met with him 17 times. Now, from my understanding, from some people that I know, Roberts, he died not that long ago. He's no longer with us, but one thing that he said in his book was, you write a book like this, you keep the receipts. You make sure you have all of your documentation, you've got your proof, your evidence. If anybody questions anything, you can pull out that source and here it is. I'm really curious. Because of his age, I'm pretty sure he was in Vietnam. But because of his age, I'm like, so he did pass away. What happened to the files? I mean, did his kids keep them? Did he arrange for somebody else in their group of investigators to come pick it up? Was it like a lump sum deal at some estate sale where it was like, hey, for $20 you can have all my weird dad's crap? I've seen that. I have seen where people do that. And sometimes just out of curiosity, I end up buying the weird dad crap. And I'm like, dude, do you have any idea what kind of signatures are in here? Holy shit. This guy was... It's weird. Families are so freaking weird. So I am totally curious, like what happened to Craig Roberts' stuff, if that's the case. Like, who took over all of that? He writes this book. He's very adamant in it, like everything in here is backed up by things that I have that prove the source and the content that I'm putting in here. Then he dies. And then it's like, $30 years. And McVeigh was executed just before 9/11. Terry Nichols is still in prison. Michael Fortier, he's been out. All the bank robbers that helped fund it, they never... Some of them were arrested for other things. And some of the paperwork that's coming out now is from a FOIA lawsuit is showing that the FBI was investigating McVeigh as being a bank robber and using that money to fund the event, right? Which means that they were co-conspirators. We already know there were co-conspirators because there were people talking about it happening at that building on that date long before it happened. But for some reason, they just wanted to focus on these two guys and move along, almost like we're not supposed to see something, right? Let's just focus on these two, get rid of them, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So now, the Oklahoma City bombing has always bugged me. I have a pretty good idea as to what really happened. Whether or not we'll ever actually know what really happened, that's a whole nother story. But until that magical day arrives, come on, Kash Patel, just release the files. Until that day happens, we can keep putting puzzle pieces together, but we'll never actually have the whole story.